Make it stick. The science of successful learning. No wonky flashcards due today. So what did we read about yesterday? Well, we would have been reading about... We're reading the summary called The Takeaway of Chapter 3 currently. Chapter 3 is Mix Up Your Practice. Alright. So I believe one thing we read about yesterday would have been blocked versus varied practice. So it's common to confuse varied practice and blocked practice, or blocked practice for varied practice. Blocked practice is where you basically do different activities, but in the same order every time, right? So in a sports practice, you might do a drill over here, and then move to this drill, and then move to this drill, and then you start back at 1, 2, 3, these stations, repeat. That's not varied practice. Varied practice is randomized, truly randomized. And so personally, I've changed how I learn a little bit. I do about 4 learning sessions per day. 1 right now on linear algebra, 1 on Make It Stick, 1 on make.com, and 1 on Google Ads. And I was starting to get into a habit of doing the same order every day. Today I've completely randomized it, asked Siri basically to give me a random number, and it's been randomized, and I will say it's more difficult, and that's probably a good thing. More cognitive effort, more learning, as we've learned in Make It Stick, as long as it's an effective learning technique, which varied practice is an effective learning technique. Okay? Gosh, I don't know why it's so hot in here. I just turned the AC off. I'm not sure why I'm so hot, but we'll continue moving forward. Here we go. Blocked versus varied practice. What else would we have learned about? Interleaved practice develops discrimination skills, which makes knowledge and skills valuable, so that you know what type of problem you're dealing with, what type of tool to use. Interleaved and varied practice help you build a more nuanced, full, complete understanding, rather than a more static, two-dimensional, linear, weak knowledge and skills that come from mass practice and rote memorization, but not varying and interleaving it. What else about interleaved practice? What did we just say? We said more valuable knowledge, more context awareness, more fulfilled or full understanding, more valuable knowledge. What else are we missing here? For blocked versus varied practice, got that. More developed, durable knowledge and conceptual, right. Varied and interleaved practice not only lead to like more durable knowledge, longer lasting knowledge, more context awareness, but actually more conceptual understanding, because you get the same underlying principles in different contexts, so that you parse through and figure out what remains when you switch it up, when you vary it up, when you start at different times, when you inverse it, reverse it, do different orders, different contexts, different cues, what remains? And the thing that remains are the underlying principles that are fundamentally the thing you're trying to learn or perform. And that might be abstract, but that's me trying to communicate how interleaved and varied practice lead to developing conceptual understanding. Nice. All right. Conceptual understanding. Very cool. Interleaving and varied practice lead to more developed, durable knowledge and conceptual understanding. Interleaving is mixing practice before something is mastered, polished. Right. Okay. So that's basically saying, rather than this idea that's intuitive, it feels comfortable, which we've learned already. Generally, comfort and learning are opposite or opposed. this idea that, you need to focus on one thing. I just heard it yesterday in a guitar video. Focus on one thing, master one thing at a time, rather than getting a bunch of things and not making progress on any. Interleaving practice doesn't actually support that kind of logic. It actually says, do a little taste, make a little progress, and then move on, and come back later, and then move on, and then come back later, and mix it all up. That keeps you kind of on your feet. It kind of keeps you having to think about things, having to reflect about things, having to be thinking like these things aren't finished. Why are these things not working? And that leads to brain growth. And we want as many, it's similar to growing muscle, I've been thinking, where you do some stimulus, you lift bicep curls, that's giving yourself, your bicep a cue to grow. You want to compress as many cues to grow as possible within a given amount of time, right? Given for muscles, at least, you need enough rest time. So you can hit biceps once a month, but that's giving you one stimulus per month. What if you hit it once a week? Now you're getting 4 stimulus per month. What if you do it twice a week? Now you're getting 8 stimuluses, and each of those stimuluses leads to growth and recovery, growth, recovery, growth, recovery, right? Or stimulus, growth, and recovery, stimulus, growth, and recovery. And similar to that, there's a difference potentially with growing your brain, in that it may be okay to re-stimulate the circuits in the region and the information, the neurons, before you fully develop the growth. I don't know if it's healthy for your muscle to get too many stimuluses. If you do biceps hard every day, you might lead to too much fatigue and actually not growing. But I don't know if that the same thing is true for neurons. Either way, we want to have more growth stimuluses. When we're just kind of focusing on one thing, you get that initial growth, and you're like, now I'm going to focus on this thing. And then you start forgetting. And if you don't come back to it, it's going to be very weak. So, all right, that was a lot of word salad that is a huge part of learning, is just verbalizing things, and then this kind of makes sense, just kind of connecting these ideas, and then it's still a little abstract, a little hard to understand, not clear. Well, then the next time I talk about it, it's more clear, and then it's more clear, and then it's more clear, and eventually I can talk about things that I had no idea, no concept of. I can talk elegantly and fluently about, because I've developed a full and complete understanding around it. So anyway, we're going to keep continuing. That was all about not trying to just focus on one thing at a time. Yes, but we're talking, you want to focus on one thing until you get a basic growth, you've made progress, or you've started to struggle with something, and then you want to switch it up, right? And then come back to it later. We're going to keep moving. Interleaving develops discrimination skills. Yes, that's a big part of this chapter. That is, you're able to know what type of problem you're dealing with, what type of tool to use in different situations. Interleaving is a form of space practice. All right. Oh my gosh, we forgot. I kind of hit on these ideas, but it's day 40, boys. Day 40. Bear with me here. Lightner box, and then familiarity trap. Okay. 2 more things that I read about yesterday. Lightner box. This is basically Anki before Anki existed, right? It was probably the thing that Anki based their software off of. The Lightner box, the German scientist Sebastian Lightner, I think, potentially. 4 boxes. The stuff he knew the least gets the wrong the most. These are in the first box, then moving up until the 4th box, which is he understands the most. You see the ones that you're worst at the most. You see the things, skills, knowledge, vocab, whatever it may be, these things that you have in note cards. In the 4th box, the closest to mastery or mastered, you see the least. Okay? But the general ideas are, the worse you are at something, the more you practice it. The better you are, the less you practice it. But that you continue to practice everything for the rest of your life, or as long as you need it. because eventually if you do not do something long enough, it will atrophy. Feedback, not feedback, familiarity trap. Familiarity trap is where you become familiar with something and you mistake that with mastery or competence, and so you stop practicing it as much, you stop giving it so much attention, and you start being easier on yourself, being like, you make a mistake, you're like, yeah, no, I got it, that's not a big deal. Versus when you're a noob, you're like, oh, that's an error, that's an obvious error, I need to fix that. Once you start getting familiar with it, you start to kind of be easier on yourself, you stop practicing as much, but you don't want to fall into this familiarity trap. You want to continue to push yourself and be accurate and honest about your current level of understanding and skill. And how do you do that? Practice test is a great way. That's not addressed in this chapter, but that's a big theme of the book, is how to calibrate a true understanding of your skills, and your conceptual understanding and your knowledge is testing, right? That's how you calibrate and avoid illusions of knowing. An illusion of knowing is mistaking familiarity with competence or mastery. Cool. That was a lot. I don't know why that took 11 minutes, but it did. We have 3 paragraphs. No, we have 2 paragraphs left. We have 2 paragraphs left in chapter 3, guys. We're about to finish chapter 3. All right, I'll be back in a sec once I'm done. There it is. Chapter 3 reading is complete. Man, I feel like I just completed chapter 2 not that long ago, so. Ooh. Last parts of this chapter. What did we just read about? Basically, interleaving, spacing, and varied practice. These are all natural parts of experience. Each time, hunter-gatherers went on a new hunt, it's a spaced repetition, it's varied, and it's interleaved. It's building this implicit and explicit memory. So every type of experience, whether it's a football game, or it's a patient visit, or it's a video game, or it's a hunt, or it's playing a piece of music, every type of experience, socializing with someone or meeting someone new, every type of experience is like spacing, interleaving, and varied is like built in naturally to experiences. And then from learning from experiences. How do we learn from experience? Some people seem to never learn from experiences. Pay attention. Like when you're in the experience, you're paying attention, you're engaged. Reflection, which is a form of retrieval. Elaboration in the reflection, which is kind of like, I got a new understanding of elaboration a little bit here, is like extending. You're like, okay, what actually happened, but then what does that mean? What are you going to do next time, right? You're taking from the literal to like the hypothetical to the, expanding on, elaborate on that, kind of like that. So in the last paragraph is kind of just like, how do we get the brain to grow? It's plastic. How do we get it to grow though? Make it work, essentially. Fire the neurons, retrieve. Got it? That's it for chapter 3. At least the reading. Now, we are going to go ahead and answer the questions that I have to the best of my ability, that I collected from chapter 3. Mass practice. Okay. Single-minded focus on one concept or skill within a single time block, especially until we get it right. Not interleaving, that's for sure. All right. What do I make of Huberman's motor skill learning protocol? Bro, I don't like it. I don't like it. It's literally mass practice. Literally. He recommends to learn motor skills literally to mass practice. Maybe it is optimal for, early sessions to start learning, but make it stick doesn't recommend it at all. They are totally against this methodology at all. Make it stick seems to be like the authors, Mark McDaniel, Henry Roediger, the cognitive psychologist. They seem to not recommend mass practice in the slightest at all. Leads to momentary strength and illusions of competence. What is the optimal time to wait for delayed feedback? Maybe similar to optimal time to wait for spacing reps. That is abstractly, 1, some forgetting has occurred. 2, not all forgetting has occurred. Maybe a sleep session. A sleep session has occurred. Yeah. What is the optimal number of subjects to interleave in one session? How different should they be? Not addressed in this chapter directly. 2 seems better than 1. Beyond that, I'm not certain. Maybe context dependent. Can look into research. In the future. 3 to 5 seems my intuition of what research supports. How different should they be? Not sure. Not sure similarity matters a ton. We'll look into in the future. Man, we're gonna run out of time. Yeah. All right, we got a little bit more time. Is there really a difference between practice and learning in music? My intuition says no. They both require the same thing. Brain change, shaft growth. What differentiates experience we learn from and experience that we don't learn from? Well, that's good. Attention, reflection, and elaboration. Good questions. All right. All right. Yes, sir. That is now chapter 3 completed. I'm putting it right on top of where I've had my chapter 2. Chapter 2. Chapter 3. Chapter 1. Nice. Now, what we will do with our remaining 2 minutes is begin the classic ChatGPT quiz at the end of the chapter. I've done this for both chapters so far, 1 and 2, and now we'll be doing it for 3. We'll basically find what I said last time, and I'm just gonna copy paste it into my learning system. So we'll say new chat. No, we'll search make it stick chapter 2. Okay. Here we go. So, and then we ask, so first thing we do is say, we want the quiz to test our understanding. And then the second thing is, once we complete the quiz, we ask for the highest ROI, highest leverage flashcards for the chapter. So I'm gonna say, okay, I just completed chapter 3 of Make It Stick. Let's give me a quiz to solidify knowledge / understanding and test my level of knowledge / understanding. Rudimentary, but effective. So we'll jump into learning system V2. Boom, throw that in there. And we got 30 seconds left. Great, you're locking in while it's still fresh. Let's start with tiered recall, then we'll mix in application, compression, high variability. All right, we're not gonna have too much time. Yeah, we're gonna have no time to do this right now, but chapter 3, make it stick. I'm just gonna rename this, make it stick chapter 3. And that's gonna be it for today. Make it stick chapter 3. And then this one was make it stick chapter 2. All right, there we go. I will be working on this quiz tomorrow, so catch you guys then.